Hello, everybody. Welcome into the cycle part 3 of the week. I am Ryan Wormeli, joined, as always, by Mike Mayer. If you missed our first 2 sections of the show, either on audio or on YouTube, be sure to go check those out. We did a little round of the bases, talking some trending topics around baseball. We also did some buy low, sell high, and some waivers pickups for you. This is our pitching streamers, and of course, our 2-start pitcher competition is back for this year. The way we've been doing this is Meyer is picking his favorite streamers kind of every day of the week. We'll highlight some of my favorites as well, the ones that he's picked, and then he'll throw out some honorable mentions. So we'll get into the rest of the pitchers we want to talk about. Meyer, let's dive into our streamers.
Sure, let's dive right in. Hey, since this is going to be like 3 videos and 3 shows, should we have like a wardrobe change? And should we really treat it like 3 separate things and just like
veto?
Okay. By the way, we are using the FantasyPros, what is it called? Streaming pitcher rankings, the streaming pitcher tool, which is pretty cool. You can sync your leagues and it'll show you like which of these players is actually available in your league without having to like look them all up, which is pretty cool. Very handy for someone like me who's in 8 leagues, and I can just kind of like filter through them, see who I can probably stream. So let's go through it day by day. For Monday, someone I talked about in the previous video or previous episode is Nick Martinez. And the interesting thing here is not up to a great start, but he is at the Marlins. So good matchup in a good pitcher-friendly ballpark. However, if you have to stream weekly, he does have a second start that is supposed to come at Coors Field. So you do kind of have to take your medicine if you want to stream him, and it's a weekly league. But if it's a daily league, you can just stream him at Miami and then either drop him or put him back on your bench for that rocky start. Jose Quintana, someone I'm interested in picking up this week. Also a 2-start pitcher this week. Not the worst matchups. Not great matchups, but not terrible. For Tuesday, he's a streaming option for someone at the San Francisco Giants. Later in the week, he has the Cardinals, who are off to a strong start on the hitter side of things. For Wednesday, David Festa against the White Sox. Just, every day pretty much see who's pitching against the White Sox and see if they're available. And if they are, pick them up. But David Festa also is off to a pretty good start. So good for him. Tyler Anderson, I famously did not write down who he's pitching against, but it looks like he's at home against the Pirates. Again, someone I think is off to a pretty good start that, is readily available. His consensus roster percentage is 3%. So that'll probably be a little bit higher in leagues on CBS, but I can't imagine it's very high. So if you need a streaming option, I think he's pretty good. Friday is a rough one. Friday I stared at for a while, and I tried to think if I was missing something. And I think for the first time in his career, we might be looking at Justin Verlander as a streaming option. However, I don't feel great about it because Justin Verlander is not up to a great start, and he doesn't have a great matchup. He's home against the Texas Rangers.
Other than that, though.
Yeah. So if you want to stream this week, maybe don't look at Friday. But I was looking at other options. It's not great out there either. There was like Fridays, Ben Brown versus the Phillies, Matthew Liberatore against the Brewers, Jake Irvin against the Mets, Bobby Miller, who probably won't even be on the Dodgers at that point. Maybe whoever the Dodgers replace Bobby Miller with against the Pirates should be your option for Friday.
I think it's worth pointing out, though, that sometimes the best streaming option is not streaming anybody, right? Like, yeah. If there are literally no options, you don't have to force it just for the sake of having a streamer every day. If that's something that is a part of your approach, you can say, we're taking this day off because there's just not any good options. That's allowed.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I don't think you probably should be streaming every day. You probably get some crooked numbers if you do that. So yeah, for this week, I would say Friday, probably stay away from Friday. I know sometimes you have to get creative with how you're streaming because you have like certain transaction limits or like you have certain pitchers pitching on certain days. So you might only have like the ability to stream on certain days or pick up a player who like, you're like, oh, I have an open spot on Wednesday, kind of a thing. And so I would just skip Friday this week. If you have to, water a pistol to your head, have to stream someone, I guess Justin Verlander. But I would agree with you, Worm, that the better option would be to not stream anyone. Saturday wasn't much better, but I did land on Edward Cabrera at the Mariners. But that's also, one, like if you didn't have to, I'd probably just avoid that one. And on Sunday, I feel a little bit better about Richard Fitz at the Cleveland Guardians. Richard Fitz is kind of just a guy, but he's been pitching fine. He's been good for the Red Sox.
I don't really have a favorite for these. It's kind of a, whatever week of options. I guess you did try to sell us on Jose Quintana in our previous show for this week, so maybe him, maybe Anderson actually against the Pirates. I could get into.
I think Anderson would be my pick. I think if you need the 2 starts and you need the volume, I would go with Quintana. But I think if I just had to pick one, I'd probably go Anderson against the Pirates.
You don't have the matchup in the sheet, but now that I remember it's the Pirates because you said that in your read-through, I think I would go Anderson as well as my favorite there. And I would, like I said, I wouldn't do anything on Friday.
And some weeks I have an honorable mention or two. I have no honorable mentions this week because it's not a good week.
Do you have any dishonorable mentions?
Yeah, all of them. It's just it's brutal out there. If you're looking for streaming pitching, maybe more is coming, and we'll see some other pitchers get dropped. But this is not the best week for it. We have some potential pitchers coming back from injury soon, but not great.
All right, let's get to our 2-start pitcher competition. We do have our week 1 is now in the books. Hunter Green ended up in our kind of league that we're in, which is just kind of the easiest way to track scoring and put a number to it. 47.6 fantasy points in his 2 starts. Michael King, for me, had 45.7. So a very close outing. After the first starts of each guy, it looked like Hunter Green was going to win this running away. And then Michael King goes out and throws a complete game shutout, which helped me tremendously. Ultimately, though, I suppose it comes down to, because those scores are really close, it comes down to 2 very good starts versus 1 elite start and 1 bad one. I think I would rather have had Hunter Green's 2 starts this week. So I will cede the victory in week 1 to you. And also Hunter Green is,
he's your guy.
I was going to say, I planted my flag on him from day one in this draft season. So I can't complain too much about him getting a victory for you.
Whereas I picked him in the 2-start competition and then wrote him up as a sell high and dissed him last week as someone I'm selling high because of injury concerns. Which is also why I used him early in the contest.
Also, I faced you last week in this league, and you have Michael King. So I was going against, my golden child, and you were going up against your actual starter against me. So we had a lot of crossover there. So we'll give Meyer a slight edge for week 1 to take the victory. Still waiting to see the results of Scooble versus Max Fried. We also have a note to check out Taijuan Walker did.
Not good.
Yeah.
It's not off to a good start.
So smart to not pick him.
If you watched last week, you'll know why we mentioned Taijuan Walker.
Yes.
But there is a note in the sheet to see how Taijuan Walker did, just in case. But I think we're going to be okay there.
Yeah. For week 3, I got to the sheet first, and I couldn't decide between Max Meyer or Hunter Brown, and I ultimately went with Hunter Brown, just given the matchups against the Blue Jays and at Kansas City. Those are 2 of the bottom 4 teams in baseball in home runs this season. That appealed to me. Hunter Brown has pitched well. That appealed to me. So I was between Brown and Meyer, and ultimately with Brown. Meyer then came in and said, hey, actually Hunter Brown might not be a 2-start pitcher because McCullers is probably coming back next week, and that will push Hunter Brown out of being a 2-start pitcher. And I said, okay, well then I'll switch to Max.
Loss.
I said I'll switch to Max Meyer then, and Meyer said, no, I already took him. As you might be able to tell, there were not a lot of good options this week. It is a horrific 2-start pitcher week. So what I'm gonna do, and I'm gonna kind of insist that you allow me to do this, is I'm gonna say, because we don't know that McCullers is coming back yet, so I'm gonna say Hunter Brown is my pick if he does make 2 starts. And this is regardless of how he performs. Like, if he performs poorly, I'm still locked into him if he makes 2 starts. If he performs well in his 1 start, I'm still not allowed to use him if he gets 2. If he makes 2 starts, I'm still picking Hunter Brown. If he doesn't make that 2nd start, because it has not been announced about McCullers yet, I will have another pick that I'm making instead. I don't know who that is going to be. I said I was going to decide live on the show, and I'm just still looking at these names, and just the pitchers that are pretty good have bad matchups, and the pitchers that have good matchups aren't any good. So I'm looking at Kevin Gossman, who I just pitched you as a sell high. He's at the Yankees and at Houston. Schwellenbach's had a couple down starts, also not the easiest couple of matchups. Brandon Pfaadt's facing the Rays and the Braves. Flaherty's facing the Padres and the Orioles. I don't want really anything to do with that.
You
Bryce
know what
Miller.
You know what you're coming back to. Walker Buehler.
Yeah. Walker Buehler gets the White Sox, which is, appealing. He also gets the Guardians. And then Bryce Miller, who's a player I like, at Boston against Miami. Bailey Ober, we talked a little bit in rounding the bases. He gets the White Sox and the Angels. That's not terrible. A lot of iffy choices. I wish I could have gone with Max Meyer, as you've already staked your claim to. Who would you go with if you were me?
I would probably go with, by the way, not to spoil it for you, but I have like multiple sites open while we're doing this to see, because like a lot of it's projection. We recorded this a few days early. Teams do weird things with their rotations all the time, so a lot of it is projecting 2-star pitchers. So one of these sites does not have Bailey Ober as a 2-star pitcher either.
Okay.
So I would not pick him just for the.
I'm looking at Fantrax, by the way, just in case anybody's wondering where I'm getting these. And yes, sometimes they are not accurate. So.
I think I would go, if I were you, with where is it?
It feels to me like Bryce Miller or
Bryce Miller is what I was gonna say.
I was gonna say like Bryce Miller or Kevin Gausman. I feel like because Gausman's pitched well, and I almost kind of want to ride the hot streak. But at Houston and at the Yankees that's really tough to overlook. I will go with Bryce Miller. That will be my official pick. So Bryce Miller at the Red Sox and home against the Marlins. I'm really counting on that Marlins start.
Your official backup pick.
My official backup, but yes, Hunter Brown is my pick. If Hunter Brown makes 2 starts, it doesn't matter how he performs in them. He is the pick. But given that there's some uncertainty here, my official backup pick is Bryce Miller at the Red Sox and home against the Miami Marlins.
And I will say in the YouTube comments, if you want to throw out your preferred 2-star pitchers, we'll see how they do against, because it's a rough week, but we can do this every week too. But throw out who you would, use this week as a 2-star pitcher if you were in the competition, and we'll look at some of them next week and see, just how much better they would have been.
Did we have any comments last week from people who wanted to pick Taijuan Walker?
Yeah, it was overwhelming Taijuan Walker love last week. Everyone was like, "Wow, what a move! You should have used him."
Yeah. All right.
Definitely should put him in your league and lock him in for those 2 starts like I did.
Yeah, 100%. All right, let's wrap up with some weekend excitement. Last week I sat here and said there really wasn't a ton I was that interested in. This week I think there's a ton of fun matchups, honestly. Friday alone, listen to some of these fun. And some of these might be lopsided. Like, I'm not saying these are all going to be like neck and neck, but there's just a lot of fun names going head-to-head. Cole Reagans against Jackson Jobe. And again, this is all Friday alone. Sandy Alcantara versus Zach Wheeler. I have a typo in here, but Yamamoto versus Jacob deGrom, and Mackenzie Gore versus Chase Dollander, who, again, I'm not saying is as good as him, but just really interesting to watch those guys. So a lot of really fun matchups on Friday, and just in general, like from the series perspective, like Padres Astros is a fun series. Rangers Dodgers, possible World Series preview. So I think it's a really exciting looking weekend.
Yeah, I would agree. And you took most of them.
I only took Fridays. You could have taken anything Saturday and Sunday.
Well, you mentioned the series, so that covers a lot of the series. Yeah. The one thing I mentioned that I wanted to, first off, it's Easter weekend. So I have young kids, and they're at the age now where they're going to really enjoy Easter weekend. So I'm looking forward to that, spending time with them. And from a baseball perspective, Tyler Mahle against the Dodgers is someone I want to watch just because he's off to a really strong start. It's kind of smoke and mirrors. Like he has a non-elite fastball with a elite whiff rate. Don't know how long that's going to last. And I think this will be a test of, does this blow up and he turns into a pumpkin, or can he at least hold his own against probably the best offense in baseball?
Yeah, that is an interesting one to watch as well. Which is your favorite pitching matchup of the ones I listed since I took them from you? Was there one that you would have definitely picked if it was available?
I think probably Yamamoto DeGrom. Because I really like Yamamoto, and then also like DeGrom, there's a lot of like, I don't want to say like confusion, but it's like, is he going to be elite? Is he going to just work with his lower velocity? And so, like, can he pitch around the Dodgers? I think it'll be, we're going to continue to see some interesting results out of DeGrom. So this is obviously a really big early test, and, we'll probably have some answers there.
All right, we'll wrap things up there. If you missed our other segments of the cycle, be sure to check them out on YouTube and also on audio. We've got the whole show split up on all platforms this week, so be sure to check out every little bit of the cycle. For Meyer, I'm Ryan Wormeli. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in, not just to this segment, but to all the segments. And be sure to drop your thoughts in the comments, like Meyer said, in terms of your two-start pitchers or any of the other streamers that you guys might like. We'll get out of here on that, and see you again next week.